We've set our strategies to focus on the four most important macroeconomic trends that are driving our industry. First is globalization. Nearly every one of our customers today sees their future growing outside of their home country. They're trying to figure out how to access all these other countries. It's from developed countries to emerging markets and back the other way. Because we're positioned in both, we can help companies who want to move their products to new markets. They want to meet new customer requirements. We can help them do that because we have capability in every country. Second big trend is that developing countries are spending a lot on infrastructure, and infrastructure development is sort of what we do. So by having a position in those emerging markets, we can help them build airports, build roads, solve power problems with our products. So we're there locally to make sure we can solve those kind of infrastructure development challenges. Third, of course, is the price of fuel keeps going up, and availability of energy is a big challenge too. So it's both availability and price of energy. And we have the best fuel economy technologies, and those, of course, are becoming more challenging every day. There's emissions hurdles that I'll come to in a minute, but also just the demands of customers to get more cost effectiveness out of their products says they need better fuel economy. But also electricity. I travel a lot in my job, and I go to countries around the world where electricity is the #1 concern of their development. I was in Lagos, Nigeria last year, and Nigeria has very, very aggressive growth plans, but they are limited by their ability to provide electricity just to companies that are trying to build in that country. We provide products that support the grid. They're distributed energy products, so we can help developing countries meet their power needs. And lastly, as I mentioned, is emissions hurdles, and that is dominating the technology development in nearly every market we go in. Of course, it's a big challenge in Europe and the US, but to have the right technologies to meet these tough emission standards. But emission standards are going everywhere. They're in developing countries now, and customers there want to be able to meet those. So the fact that we've got leading technology in emissions, we're everywhere in the world, and we have relationships and partnerships with customers, I think positions us well to take advantage of those macroeconomic trends, and that's why I'm so confident about our ability to grow in the future. And so emissions standards don't worry us really. In fact, we think they enhance our opportunity to make the world a cleaner place using technologies that we've developed. And so we'll keep pushing on those things, and hopefully even countries that are newly adopting standards, they're just getting into it, like in emerging markets, what they'll see is technologies are available, they're robust, and they're high quality, and their costs are dropping quickly. So they'll see the cost of getting into better air emissions will become cheaper over time. And so we're striving to do both. We of course want to push the envelope on the very cleanest products every day, but we also want to figure out how to offer those products at lower and lower cost over time, which again is demanded by our customers. And in emerging markets, that pressure is relentless. Our ability to be at once local and global is really important to our distribution system. So that's really what's driving our acquisition and partnerships in the distribution space, is how to provide customers with that full range of deep technical solution and to be able to provide them global and local at the same time, which is very difficult for an independent, geographically based distributor to do. We've also recently done an acquisition in the technology area, a doser business that we acquired in Germany. Another good example of how we think about acquisitions. So we're already in the after-treatment area. We've, in fact, been investing in that for more than a decade. We have leading products in after-treatment. What we're trying to make sure is that we have the technologies that are going to meet the needs or requirements of customers 10 years from now. Joint ventures have been an important part of our base strategy for years. And the reason is that we find that in many markets, if we can partner with leading customers in some significant way, and those partnerships can take a wide range of forms. Sometimes they're just long-term relationships. Sometimes they're joint ventures. Sometimes there are other kinds of arrangements. But by forming partnerships where they can begin to rely on Cummins and we can rely on them to push technologies with each other that will serve customers better, so integrate more tightly to solve problems for customers, the customer gets a better result and both of us grow as a result of that. Emerging markets, that was fundamental to our strategy. In many emerging markets, a lot of the customers had their own engine capability, but they weren't pleased with the technology they were getting out of their own engine capability. So they wanted to get technology from Cummins, but they had an engine division. So what do? By partnering with Cummins, we're able to provide them with new engines and new technology, but we're also able to provide them with components so that they can make their own engines more capable and keep using their own engines. So a lot of our customers today use some of their own and some of Cummins, and the technology partnership with us provides them with an opportunity to keep both strategies going at one time. We've also used joint ventures in the distribution area where we want to get into a market and help our distribution become more capable, but keeping a local partner is also beneficial. So joint ventures and other kinds of partnerships like that have been successful for Cummins for many years. And I talked to many other CEOs who are really surprised that we use joint ventures, because joint ventures have been frustrating to them or really not a successful strategy. And I don't have a perfect explanation as to why they've been successful for us and for others, but I will say this, that we invest a lot of personal time as leaders in making sure that partnerships are successful. And it takes leadership commitment to make partnerships successful. Because by definition, they mean that you don't get everything you want. A partnership means that you have to be willing to give the partner some of what they want, which may not overlap 100% with what you want. So a good dose of Midwest modesty and a little bit of looking long run versus short run, I think is necessary to make those kind of partnerships work out. And we spend a lot of time thinking about how to make sure that's successful, and I think it's served the company well over many years. Joint ventures and partnerships have helped us integrate into emerging markets, especially early on. In several of the emerging markets that we entered back in the 70s and 80s, it was actually not legal for a foreign company to own a business in our area, in engines or related technologies in China or in India, for example. So you had to have a partnership to actually even enter the market. And not to mention, by having a partner, you had some volume in terms of product sales right away. You had also support in terms of building up capability in factories and other kinds of things, because they had property or could get property available quickly. So there were a lot of advantages in that. I will say, though, that with every one of those advantages came a challenge, that now you had to start thinking about compromising between the way you wanted to do things and the way they wanted to do things. Where were you going to say this has to be the way we're going to do it? For example, on quality systems, we were very strong about that, to say if you'd like to get products from Cummins and you want our technology, you need to have our quality system, because this is fundamental to making sure you're going to get what you want. But you might have to cooperate on other things. You might have to be willing to accept things that they want to do that you might do differently. And I think learning to compromise and learning how to partner with people so that both people get a lot of what they want, I think has really served us well over time. We aren't really seeing much growth in a lot of these economies today, and infrastructure investment has actually come down for the last couple of years in most markets. And one of the big challenges is, if we're not making investments today, we won't have the new products and new technologies that our customers are going to demand 3 or 4 years from now when markets get going. What's more is customers today, when things are tough, they're almost more demanding. They almost need more from you because they're struggling too. And so how to be responsive to their needs, make investments while things are tough is a real challenge for a leadership team. And our company has thought a lot about that and making sure that we can be agile in those kinds of times. Just to give you an example, we go through investments with a fine-tooth comb every year, figuring out which ones are critical, which ones need to be launched today in order to make sure we have the technologies available at the right time, which ones could we postpone for some time and we'd still be okay, which investments a customer is really requiring right now, and we always fund those. Where can we find improvements or synergies to reduce costs in some place that's maybe not growing? All those things take a lot of teamwork and effort, not just among leaders in the U.S., but across the whole globe. And that's something we've worked on very, very hard over the last several years. I'm really proud of what our leadership team has been able to do to maintain those kind of investments. Just one statistic that might give evidence to that: last year we launched 60 new and improved products. more than one per week. That was in a year when our growth was not very strong at all, 60 new products. And so I just think when the markets do start to improve and customers are able to see the technologies that we've got available with all these new products and the global capability we have in terms of locations and support, I think our growth prospects just look that much stronger than somebody who was less able to make investments in the downtime. There's no question that the stakeholder demands over time change. They change because people demand more. So every time your customers get something from you that's really good, they expect that to be the best, the standard for everything from now on. What's more is if they get something good from another supplier, even another area, they think that's the new standard. And that accelerates the need for innovation and change from every supplier they have, including us, of course. So the demands of customers continue to rise. Then there's also this global dimension, which is that customers have similarities across the world, but they're not the same. So what they require from you is both, I want the best available in the world, and I want it the way I want it here. So local and global at the same time. I never want a lower standard. I want the best standard, but I want these things too, or this, I want it provided to me this way. So this idea of trying to figure out how to provide the best thing globally and provide it locally, this is also an increased challenge for us. And the same is true on the employee side. So employees are looking for Cummins to provide them with opportunities to develop and grow while working here. And if you can motivate them and inspire them and give them opportunities, they will engage and bring their best to the table, which is what we need every day. And employees have a lot of similarities around the world as to what they want, but it's not the same. Still, you have to be able to provide employees with what is motivating to them, which is different for each person, frankly, not just different across countries, but different across the world.